You know, I've noticed in talking with hundreds of people about their life is that when you get into the second half, you look back in your life and you begin to think about things that happened. There's been a few events especially that have been pretty significant, and they have shaped you. And I'd like to talk today about how experiences do shape us and become aware of those things. So when something happens, the first thing that you begin to ponder about is what just happened. You want to make sure you heard or saw and experienced that right. What just happened? And then pretty quickly, you start thinking, well, why did that happen? And what does this mean? And so we're searching instantly to interpret this event, whatever it was. And then pretty quickly, like sometimes it's nanoseconds, or maybe it's a few hours, or maybe a few days later, you begin to say, no, what does this actually mean for me? And you begin to internalize it and generalize it, and then you begin to think, okay, what does this mean going forward? And now you're forming a belief around the interpretation of that event. And out of this belief, you make choices in the future. And those choices in turn affect the experiences that you will have. So we call this experience and interpretation and belief a little mini story or a narrative. And we have hundreds of these narratives in our life. We store them in our memory banks as a way to make decisions in the future. And when something comes along that reminds us of this other event, the feelings and the interpretation and the belief about what happened that last time kick into gear and inform us about our choices going forward. And so consequently, our experiences are forming a data bank. And by the time you get to the second half of life, you've got hundreds of these. And you're using them subconsciously to make decisions going forward. So one of the things we have to do if we're going to be wiser in the second half of life, is that we need to become more self-aware about what's actually shaping us. How are we being driven by our decisions? And becoming aware of these things helps us to be able to determine a wiser path going forward. So think about something significant in your life and slow down the wheel a bit to go back and say, okay, what happened and why did it happen? And begin to identify in your memory a belief that may have come out of this. And we'll help you determine how to be wiser about those beliefs going forward. So stay with me. We'll be back next week and we're going to talk about this in further depth.